Hey there, historian. Ready to unearth what time tried to hide? Look, you and I both know that official history loves neat little endings, villains in jail and heroes with medals. But our partnership here on this channel is based on searching for what stayed in the shadows. Today, we're going to talk about a man who knew the filthiest secrets of every official in Berlin and who, at the moment the world was collapsing, simply walked right out of history. Imagine the scene. May 1st, 1945. Berlin is no longer a city. It's a cemetery of concrete and smoke. The air has a metallic taste of blood and gunpowder. Underground, inside Hitler's bunker, the despair is palpable. You can hear the dry sound of crystal glasses shattering and the acrid smell of cyanide. The survivors are choosing between the bullet or the poison. But while the generals cry, a man with round glasses, a common expression, and an impeccable SS uniform doesn't seem disturbed in the slightest. He doesn't have a poison capsule in his hand. He has a leather briefcase full of files. His name was Heinrich Müller. But the world knew him by the nickname that made every European's knees tremble. Gestapo Müller. How did the man who commanded the most feared police force on the planet, the logistical architect of the Holocaust, evaporate without leaving a single trace? Brew your coffee, adjust your headset, because today we're going to find out how Müller didn't escape death, but rather swapped masters at exactly the right time. Do you believe he died in the ruins, or that he became the right-hand man of a new dictator? To understand why the Russians, yes, Stalin's Soviets, would be willing to hide the head of the Gestapo, we need to go back in time a bit. Müller wasn't one of those fanatical Nazis who screamed from podiums like Goebbels. He didn't care at all about Himmler's mysticism. Müller was what you and I would call today a workaholic of evil, a technocrat. In the 1920s, he was a simple career policeman in Munich. And do you know what he did? He hunted Nazis. He was an expert at crushing anyone who threatened public order, especially communists. But Müller had a dangerous personality trait. He didn't serve ideas. He served power. When Hitler took the reins of Germany in 1933, Müller wasn't fired. On the contrary. Reinhard Heydrich, the man known as the Butcher of Prague, looked at that bureaucratic coldness and thought, I need this guy. Müller was the professional policeman. If you gave him an order to organize traffic or to organize the extermination of a people, he would do both with the same mathematical precision. He didn't hate out of passion. He destroyed by metrics. It was he who signed the deportation orders. It was he who turned terror into an exact science, complete with stamps, deadlines, and efficiency reports. But while he was building the Nazi surveillance system, he did something curious. He observed the enemies. During the war years, Müller developed an almost obsessive admiration for the methods of the NKVD, the Russian secret police. He told his closest subordinates, "The Russians are professionals. They operate with a coldness that we should copy." While the rest of the Nazi high command despised the Slavs, Müller was studying the language of his next job. He was building a mental inventory of every Soviet spy he captured. He wasn't just interrogating, he was creating a resume. But how did he manage to get out of the bunker surrounded by thousands of Russian soldiers crazy for revenge? Now, pay attention to this detail that almost no one tells. In late April 1945, Hitler's bunker was a madhouse. The dictator's personal pilot, Hans Bauer, reported that Müller was strangely calm. While everyone else was drinking to forget the imminent end, Müller spent 20 hours a day burning files. But he wasn't burning everything. He was selecting. There is evidence that Müller used the Rote Kapelle network, the Red Orchestra, a Soviet spy network that he himself had dismantled, to send radio signals. He wasn't asking for mercy. He was sending a product catalog. Imagine Heinrich Müller's value to Joseph Stalin. Müller had the names of every traitor inside the Kremlin. He knew who the German agents embedded in Russia were who hadn't been discovered yet. He was, literally, a living encyclopedia of intelligence that Stalin could use against the West. Here's a touch of partnership for those of you following this investigation. Stories like this show that reality is much dirtier than Hollywood movies. If you like this direct approach, without the academic fluff, go ahead and click the subscribe button. I bring new videos like this every 72 hours, so we don't let these secrets die. Already subscribed? Then let's get to the moment of the escape. In 1945, American intelligence intercepted encrypted messages about a very high-ranking officer who had supposedly been escorted to the east under special protection. In that chaos of Berlin, where bodies were being burned and identities were being swapped for a pack of cigarettes, Müller simply evaporated. Soviet records, which to this day are protected as if they were the secret to immortality, mention a technical specialist in interrogations who helped reshape the security system in East Germany shortly after the war. And this is where the puzzle piece fits together in a terrifying way: the Stasi. If you've ever studied the Cold War, you know that the Stasi, East Germany's secret police, was the most efficient and brutal service in the world. They even surpassed the Russian KGB in terms of social control. The Stasi didn't just use brute force. They used clean psychological torture, the detailed filing of every neighbor, the transformation of society into a sea of informants. Sound familiar? It's exactly the method Müller perfected in the Gestapo. Historians who had access to fragments of files suggest that Müller lived in a luxurious dacha on the outskirts of Moscow until the mid-1950s. He allegedly died of natural causes, protected by the very same regime he had sworn to destroy years earlier. Why would Stalin give a comfortable retirement to a war criminal? Because on the chessboard of espionage, yesterday's blood is the ink that draws tomorrow's maps. Müller wasn't a person to Stalin. He was a tool, a very useful tool. But the West didn't stand still. In 1963, the West German government, pressured by Nazi hunters, decided to exhumate what was believed to be Müller's grave in Berlin. When they opened the coffin, a surprise. They found 3 different skeletons. None of them belonged to Heinrich Müller. The master of espionage achieved what every spy dreams of. He became a legend, a ghost, haunting both sides of the Iron Curtain. This story teaches us a lesson that's like a punch to the gut, partner. For men like Müller, the uniform is just work clothes. What matters is the power machine. He started by hunting communists for democracy, then hunted them for the Nazis, and in the end, hunted Democrats for the communists. He was the absolute bureaucrat of repression. While the world watched the Nuremberg trials and saw men like Göring and Hess in the dock, Müller's chair remained empty. The monster who screamed into the microphone was hanged. The monster who whispered and stamped papers walked out the back door with a new identity. If the Soviet connection is real, and the evidence is extremely strong, Müller was the hidden architect of the repression that divided the planet for 4 decades of the Cold War. The mystery of Gestapo Müller is the largest open scar in 20th century intelligence. He proved that if you are useful enough to those in power, justice will never reach you. He turned his escape into a masterpiece of dark logistics. And now I want to hear from you, historian. Do you think Müller really ended his days drinking vodka in Moscow and laughing at those who were looking for him? Or was he killed by some random Soviet soldier who didn't even know who he was? Your theory is what drives this channel. Comment below. If you have any questions or want me to explore the version of his escape to the United States, yes, that theory exists too. Just ask. Don't forget to turn on notifications, because in 72 hours I'll be back with part 2 of this dossier, the route to America and the secret the CIA kept for decades. The past has secrets that many powerful people want to keep buried, but our partnership is here to unearth every single one of them. See you in the next video, partner. Müller's impunity is proof that justice failed in the face of one of the greatest criminals in history.